So if I can get everyone to stand up for me real quick. Okay, and if we can just raise your right hand and just repeat after me. I state your name, solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. All right. So just to go over, go ahead and have a seat. So that packet that you guys have will have your oath of office. So if you guys can sign both copies, and I will take the lighter paper, and you guys can keep the harder paper as a certificate of oath. And then there is also a statement of economic. Okay, so there's a statement of economic interest. It's a Form 700. We will need that in the clerk's office within 30 days from today. Original signature, so you can either drop it off in our office, which is on the first floor next to the elevators, or you can mail it to us. Like I said, you have 2 copies of the oath of office. We'll take one, you guys keep the other. This checklist that's on here, I'll have you guys sign both pages. We'll take one page and you guys take the other. This is just a list of things that you've been given today. The attendance policy is in there as well, and the ethics training. So the ethics training, we will need a signed original copy within 30 days from today. Now with the ethics training, you have to have a minimum of 2 hours, and it will tell you, there's a time on there that'll tell you. If you get it done before the 2 hours, there are supplements that you can take that will add to that time to get you to the 2 hours. But you have to have a minimum of 2 hours. Any questions on that?
I have a question. I, every 2 years, have to take the AB 1234 ethics training as part of my job for the state.
Okay.
I know that was accepted for like the AAA committee for the county. If I send you a letter of acknowledgement that I completed that, would you look at it and see if it might be allowed in substitute?
I think that should be okay. Yeah, that should be
Great,
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just a reminder, if you can leave one page signed of the checkoff list and the oath of office on the dais, and I'll pick it up at the end of this meeting. And there's a drawer at the dais for you guys. There should be a pen or a pencil. If you don't have any pens, just let me know. I can get you one. Okay, so we will go ahead and formally start the meeting. So first we'll do agenda item B, Pledge of Allegiance. We have the flag right over here. Okay, agenda item C, roll call. Committee member Mejia.
Present.
Deanda. Morse. Heller.
Here.
Sykes. Jones.
Here.
Casper. Here. Abong. And Walsh. Okay, I would like to remind the audience that if they wish to address the Redistricting Advisory Committee, they must submit a white request to speak form located at the podium in the back of the council chamber. Citizens can submit public comment to the Redistricting Advisory Committee electronically no later than 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Comments received before the deadline will be sent to the Redistricting Advisory Committee and will be part of the record and will be mentioned as part of the public comment portion of the agenda. Material may be emailed to cityclerk@cityofmerced.org and should be limited to 300 words or less. Any correspondence received after 1 p.m. will be distributed to the Redistricting Advisory Committee and retained for the official record. You may provide telephonic comments via voicemail by calling 209-388-8688 by no later than 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting to be added to the public comment. Voicemails will be limited to a time limit of 3 minutes. And the clerk's office did not receive any voicemails or emails for today's meeting. Agenda item D, public comment. I do have 2 requests to speak forms. I have one from Diana Odom Gunn and the other one from Peng Cha Veng. So if you guys can come up to the podium to my left. And before I'll have you guys go up, let me just read this. So members of the public who wish to speak on any matter not listed on the agenda may speak during this portion of the meeting and will be allotted 3 minutes. State law prohibits the committee from acting at this meeting on any matter raised during the public comment period. Members of the public who wish to speak on a matter that is listed on the agenda will be called upon to speak during discussion of that item.
Hi, my name is Peng Cha, and I live here in Merced City. I'm unemployed, but I wanted to talk about UC Merced. It's actually out of the map, and right now it's currently being annexed, so it could be added to the districts. It won't be annexed until early next year. So my question is, will it, once it's annexed, will it count, like their votes, and will they be represented? Will they be redrawn, will the lines be redrawn because of that population change? And if later on, South in District 2, there's some parts of some neighborhoods that aren't included in the city lines. If they are also being annexed, would they later on, would they also, would their votes count where their population numbers change? Would it change the lines? That's my question.
Just so the committee and the speakers are aware, the committee actually can only deal with things that are on the agenda. I recognize that's a concern, and I can actually look into that issue and provide information to the committee so they can consider that, but they're just not able, they're not going to be able to respond tonight.
Hi, my name's Diana Odom Gunn, and tonight I'm representing the Merced Downtown Neighborhood Association, also known as DNA. DNA represents the downtown neighborhoods that run from about 99 Freeway up to Bear Creek, V Street, all the way to Glen. And the reason that we use those boundaries is the commonality of interests and histories and values and the geographic integrity, which is becoming increasingly important as Merced grows. Downtown Neighborhood Association wants to preserve the historic integrity of Merced's downtown. Please help us do that. You'll see me again. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move up agenda item F1, the selection of new chair and vice chair, before we get into anything else. So if we want, we can go ahead and make a nomination for, we can do either both together or we can do them separately in a vote, however you guys want to do it.
Okay. Well, I would like to move that we appoint Ryan Heller as the chairman or chairperson.
Okay. Do we want to go ahead and, do you want to take them separately? Or do you want to also do a vice chair? We can do it separately. That's fine to make it easier.
I think.
Okay. So I have a motion by committee member Morris and a second by committee member Deanda with the roll call vote. Committee member Mejia, how do you vote? Okay. Deanda? Morris?
Yes.
Heller?
Yes.
Sykes? Jones? Casper? Abong? And Walsh. And the motion passes unanimously. Okay, do we have a motion for a vice chair?
Morris as vice chair.
Okay. Okay, so I have a motion by Committee Member Sykes and a second by Committee Member Abong with a roll call vote. Committee Member Mejia, how do you vote? Deanda?
Yes.
Morse?
Yes.
Heller?
Yes.
Sykes?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Casper? Abong? And Walsh. Okay, and the motion passes unanimously. So if you want, let's go ahead and we'll have Heller, if you and Morris can just switch spots.
Certainly.
Okay, we'll go back to reports. So agenda item E, reports. E1, Brown Act training for committee members. And before we start, if you guys want, you can actually get this presentation on your screen. It's the top left corner button. If you just press that, then it switches over from the agenda to the PowerPoint.
What are we doing here now?
We're doing a Brown Act training.
Question. Does this speaker go up any louder? I mean,
You want the
yeah,
is that- okay,
yeah,
can turn that for you.
I can't hear anything. I can't.
It's okay. You ready? My name is Kimberly Madiag, and I am the Deputy City Attorney for the City of Merced. One of the reasons, biggest reason that I'm here tonight is there are actually rules governing how we conduct city meetings. And so it's very important that you understand what your obligations are, the rules, because we don't want you to break them. The Brown Act is actually enacted in 1953, and it's codified in California Government Code Section 54950. It basically requires the public meetings, any deliberations or actions taken by a committee such as this to be conducted in a public forum where the public has a right to be heard. Basically, the key provisions from this are that a meeting shall be open and public except where the Brown Act otherwise authorizes this. The public has a right to attend and participate in these meetings. We need to post a meaningful agenda to be posted in advance of these meetings. Some of these things will be taken care of for you, but I just want you to be aware of what these rules are. Discussion and action is limited to the matters that are listed on the agenda for the meeting. That's why you saw me step in earlier. When people from the public come in and comment, you're allowed to respond and ask questions for clarification, but we're not allowed to handle anything that's not on the agenda. The discussion and action is limited to matters on the agenda. Discussions outside of a noticed meeting by a majority of the committee members about an item of business within the subject matter jurisdiction, meaning within an area that this committee actually handles, is actually prohibited. So who is the Brown Act, or who, these are common questions. Who's covered by the Brown Act? What constitutes a meeting? What are the notice and agenda requirements? What are the public's rights under the Brown Act, and what are the consequences of violating the Brown Act are some of the common questions. So who's governed by the Brown Act? That's any legislative body such as the City Council, and it includes the Redistricting Advisory Committee and each of you. So what constitutes a meeting? A meeting occurs when there's a majority of the members of this advisory committee who are having a discussion at the same time and location. That also includes teleconference locations, and it gets a little more complicated than this, to discuss, deliberate, or decide on any item that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Redistricting Advisory Committee. So what is the subject matter jurisdiction? We review, oops, this is not the right one. Just so you know, that was a different one. It's okay. So here's the types of things that can actually occur that constitute a meeting. So there's things called hub and spoke and daisy chain. Hub and spoke is where one member of the committee calls other members one-on-one, because, it talks about how there needs to be a majority. So technically, if one person calls another person, there's not a majority. However, if one person calls several members of the committee, that actually amounts to a majority or a quorum, that's actually trying to bypass the actual rules of this being conducted in the public. The same thing occurs if one member of the committee calls another member of the committee, and then that member calls another person. Those acts are prohibited. We don't want people conducting business actually behind the scenes of the actual meeting and bypassing the rules in that fashion. So a series of communication can actually cause this too, and it can happen from conference calls, emails, text messages that are shared among the committee members, conversations among the members in which the position of the members are shared by the majority. And I apologize, this is actually not the updated one, but I'll update it as we go along. You need to be careful with technological devices such as phones, text messaging, because that can cause a serial meeting too. Emails, it's actually okay to send an email to the group and say, I think we should do this at the next meeting. The real problem comes in when people start replying. So we want to be very careful. Like, it's not a good idea to hit reply all or send emails out to the entire group. We've kind of talked about this, but so this is just past all this, sorry. The one thing I want to caution you, like we were just talking about emails, is emails never go away. An email can create a virtual serial meeting. Like I just said, don't hit reply all. Refrain from forwarding or emailing the group as a whole, because that can actually be considered a meeting that is happening outside the public forum. I gave you this example, and that's the perfect example, like I said, if someone says, I think we should do X. Be very careful with social media. One of the things that actually legislation has been saying, that you should not be responding to any message from another member on social media. The legislation does exclude things like commenting on another member's post or retweeting, forwarding, emojis, or clicking the like button, but please be very cautious when you get involved in these things, because too much information or a combination of these could actually result in a violation. Some exceptions to the meetings: you're allowed to have individual contacts. You're allowed to talk about the subject matter of the meetings with other people. You're allowed to attend conferences, public and even training information like these. Community meetings that are public or publicized and open to the public, you're allowed to go and discuss topics of local community concern, as long as it's organized by someone other than the city. You're allowed to attend other legislative bodies when they're open and noticed, even if it's another body of this public agency. You're allowed to attend standing committees, same thing, you can provide that. You're allowed to go to social and ceremonial events, even parties. You're just not allowed to discuss the subject matter with other members when there's a majority in those settings. We've already talked about the agendas. You'll notice that the agendas actually list all of the items. You're only allowed to address the items that are on those agendas in the public forum. If someone comes, and we'll get into this, if they come and speak, you're allowed to, like I said, ask questions for clarification. You're allowed to very briefly respond, but you're not allowed to deal with things outside the subject matter. Sometimes when conversations are being held and people come and speak, the subject matter can kind of drift off a little bit, so it's very important to stick with the agenda that's been posted. The agenda has to be posted 72 hours ahead of time, and that's to give the public notice about what we're going to be discussing, which is why it's so important to not deviate from that. The agenda must advise the public of what we're going to be discussing, and it must state the meeting time and place. Each item of business also must be briefly described, but also described adequately enough to put the public on notice what we're doing. The committee, I've kind of talked about this too. You're allowed to briefly respond to statements or questions posed at a public meeting or by the public. A committee member is allowed to ask for clarification, make a brief announcement, or even report on your own activities that you've been working on in the committee. Otherwise, no action can be taken on issues that are not on the agenda. The public has a right to attend, observe, and participate in these meetings. The members of the public cannot be required to register their names or provide information. All actions taken by this advisory committee must be done in open session unless a closed session is authorized, and the vote of each member must be disclosed to the public at the time it's taken. That's why you'll notice that when you're taking votes, they're actually asking for an oral count. Sometimes with smaller committees, we'll use these meetings where it actually registers what each member is voting. That's public information, and we have to record that. So why do we take this so seriously? Actually, if you are intentionally circumvent these rules to try to deceive the public, it's actually a misdemeanor. Usually these things are not done intentionally. So, however, any member of the public, a district attorney, anyone can actually step in and ask the board to retract and fix any errors of the Brown Act. And if you refuse, it can actually take action in court. I know this is thrilling stuff. Do you guys have any questions? Go ahead, Hub.
Hold on. I'm sorry, Hub. Can you move the microphone? And then the light where it says mute, when the light's off, it's live.
Sorry about that. The agendas would be posted 72 hours. If something was to arise prior to the posting and needed to be added, that would be something you as council would be doing for the commission?
No, you have actually someone assigned who is handling your agenda. We just double check to make sure that the agenda is correct each time.
Not that I would anticipate that would happen, but periodically it might, that after the agenda was posted and matter came to our attention,
I don't think we post the agenda until 72 hours before, right?
Well, our office likes to post more than 72 hours in case something happens. We have some cushion time between, when we post it. So usually for council meetings, we post on a Wednesday or a Thursday at the latest, but we have until Friday at 5 to post. So we do kind of give us some leeway time just in case.
I just assumed that, that our chair and vice chair wouldn't be working on this to make sure that the agendas were posted. So
Luckily, that's kind of our job too.
Thank you.
Make sure. It's our job to make sure that everything's being complied with as well. So, any other questions?
Trivia question. Do you know how many successful criminal prosecutions there have been for violation of the Brown Act?
Big fat zero since you asked. Any other questions? Don't let that discourage you, though. Okay.
No, of course not.
Okay. Thank you, each one of you, so much for taking the time to serve on this committee. We greatly appreciate it.
And we can also provide copies of, I do have the updated one. I don't think it was saved onto this file. I think I accidentally saved it in a different file. So we do have the updated one that has all the information that I can send you guys in an email, or if I get it printed in time, I can give it to you today.
I can send you another one too.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item F2, Redistricting Advisory Committee roles and duties. Okay, well, good evening, committee members. I'm Jennifer Levesque. I'm the Assistant City Clerk in the Clerk's office. You'll be hearing a lot from me. You'll be receiving emails from me regarding the agenda and, reminding you of the dates. Also, just a side note, reminding of dates, I did give you guys a copy of a flyer that has all of the Redistricting Advisory Committee dates on there. So that way you guys have that. And things will be updated on the website at cityofmerced.org/redistricting. It will consistently, like this meeting tonight, this video will be posted tomorrow on the website so people can see and, and be up to date with everything. So with that, we'll go through your roles and duties. So one of the roles and duties of the Redistricting Advisory Committee, or I guess we can call it RAC, that way it's easier. It's a very long name. So encourages public engagement and outreach. So a lot of that would be flyers similar to the one that I gave you to kind of go out to your districts and really encourage and do outreach and have your committee or community members participate. We want them to come to these meetings. We have, after this meeting, we have 4 more meetings, and then City Council does have 2 public hearings, and by their second public hearing is when they'll adopt the final district map. So the work that we're going to do is going to lead us up to that point when you guys give their recommendation to City Council. We will eventually be getting paper maps, so if people don't have access to the internet or just would rather draw it out, we will have those available. We will have a consultant that will come to our future meetings and kind of go through the process with that as well. Receives input from the public regarding district lines and communities of interest. So that would be like tonight when we have members of the public come up and speaking during whatever item, or even just public comment, giving their opinions and what they think, where the lines should fall. And then up here, I do have the definition of what the roles and the communities of interest is. So kind of in short is shared social and economic interest, effective and fair representation, and not including relationships with political parties, incumbents, and political candidates. So that kind of gives you, that's the direct definition of what communities of interest is. You guys do have a copy of this PowerPoint on the dais for you as well for information. Just to kind of go back a little bit, for the encourages public engagement and outreach, we can provide flyers similar to the one that I have there. I can make them smaller so you guys can hand them out to the community members in your district and encourage them to come out and participate. I can send them to you email. If you need them printed, we can print them for you, cut them down for you, and you guys can come pick them up at the city clerk's office and distribute them. However, whatever works best for you guys to get the word out there and get more community members involved is kind of our goal on this. And then moving forward, so analyzes census data with the consultant. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but they released the census data today. That's not the true number. They still have to go back and reconfigure some numbers. So we'll get the final numbers. I'm thinking about September, early October-ish is kind of like the timeline. So these are kind of preliminary numbers. So what that means is that they have to kind of take out, people that are in prison where they originated from, then those numbers will go back to that city. So they're still kind of dwindling it down a little bit. So the goal is ensuring balanced population with the 6 districts. So like I said, we will have our consultant. They're from the National Demographics Incorporation. His name's Jeff. He'll be here in the future meetings. He has come to a council meeting so far and did an informational PowerPoint, which he'll do with you guys as well and kind of get a little bit more deep into it, since that's kind of their job. They're pretty well known in California. So he'll go through the process and kind of help us through what we need to do and what we're looking for and how to analyze this data. And then at the end of all of this, recommends potential redrawn maps, district maps, or one map, depending on how you guys want to go. You can recommend one, you can recommend multiple. It just really depends on what you guys want to do, and then you'll recommend that to the city council. And that's it. Those are your roles. It's kind of a big deal. So do you guys have any questions or anything regarding your roles and duties?
Do you have estimated dates, thank you, of the council meetings at which the finalized maps would be presented? And the other question is, I just recall at the conclusion of charter review, the chair did have to make a presentation to the council about the findings, and so I'm wondering if that's also part of our process.
Correct. So that would be the role of the chair. I also placed on the dais the roles of the chair and vice chair. It's very similar. The vice chair steps in when the chair is not able to attend. So there is, at the end of this, you will be presenting your recommendation to council and represent the committee. You all are more than welcome to come to the meeting. The chair will be the one that would be presenting your recommendations. And to answer your question about the city council, we have it on our website, but I want to make sure I say it right. So if you go to cityofmerced.org/redistricting, or even on our homepage, it's the very top banner, you can click on that. We do have just information on there. So we have a redistricting process, schedule, draw map, which we don't have those tools just yet since we don't have numbers. Kind of hard to draw a map when you don't have the numbers. And then resources and frequently asked questions. So the schedule is laid out. So the first public hearing, or I guess this third public hearing for council would be February 7th, 2022, February 7th. And that is at 7 p.m. Anytime we do public hearings for redistricting, so your guys' meetings will now be, after this one, will be a public hearing. It has to start at the exact time that we have listed. I don't know if you guys watched the last council meeting where we had to specify that it was at 7, and we couldn't go to that public hearing item, so we had to take other items that were after it and then cut and then go into right when it hit 7 o'clock, then we had to discuss that item. It's a new law that they're very strict on, so we have to make sure that when we are having these public hearings, they're exactly at the time that we have listed. So City Council is February 7th, 2022, and March 7th is the final adoption of the map. We do have a deadline to get everything finalized and turned in by April 17th, so we are on a pretty tight deadline to get these things going through. And it also depends on when we get the numbers as well. So once we get that, then you'll start to see the ball really rolling and moving forward with that. Anybody have any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. At this time, do we entertain a motion for adjournment? Is that right? So if there is such a motion to be made, I would be happy to take it up.
I make the motion.
Motion from Member Mejia. Is there a second? Second from Member Morse.
Okay, I have a motion by Committee Member Mejia and a second by Vice Chair Morse with a roll call vote. Committee Member Mejia, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay. DeAnda?
In favor.
Morse?
In favor.
Heller?
Yes.
Sykes?
Yes.
Jones?
Yeah.
Okay. Casper? Abong? Walsh? Yes. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, guys. I promise you the next meeting probably will not be this fast.
I was going to say 30 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
It is.